They say every grand love story has a twist, but no one expects it to end with heartbreak splashed across front pages. Anna Mendoza was an ordinary woman with extraordinary dreams until she fell in love with the dashing millionaire William Rutherford. Their whirlwind romance dazzled everyone. Charity galas, lavish vacations, and a fairy tale wedding that made headlines. But sometimes, even the most magical stories hide a dark undercurrent. When Anna discovered she was pregnant, William's reaction unleashed a chain of events no one saw coming. Betrayal, revenge, and a shocking exposé that rocked high society. This is the story of how one woman fought back. Anna Mendoza grew up in a modest neighborhood in Austin, Texas. She was the eldest daughter of a mechanic, Miguel Mendoza, and a hard-working nurse, Patricia Mendoza. Money was always tight, but love was abundant in their small home, painted a cheerful turquoise at the corner of Oakwood and Hampton Street. Anna learned early on the values of resilience and kindness. She was taught that hard work trumped shortcuts, and that love was a priceless gift rather than a commodity. Despite these humble beginnings, Anna stood out for her spirit and intelligence. She excelled in her studies, dreaming of one day becoming a journalist who could shed light on injustices around the world. While her ambitions soared, so did her curiosity about life beyond her humble neighborhood. She pored over newspapers and magazines, dissecting news stories and analyzing the high-profile lives of the wealthy. She read about entrepreneurs like Bill Gates and admired how philanthropic giving could change entire communities, yet was often frustrated that powerful people could also remain blind to the struggles of others. After graduating with top honors from a local high school, Anna managed to secure a scholarship to the University of Texas at Austin. She majored in communications and minored in political science, hoping to sharpen her writing skills and focus on global issues. During college, she volunteered at a local newspaper, the Austin Tribune, under the guidance of an old-school editor named Harriet Sullivan, who taught Anna to investigate thoroughly and write passionately. Anna's keen eye for detail and empathetic approach to storytelling gained her recognition. One fateful evening at a charity fundraiser for children's literacy, Anna caught the eye of William Rutherford, a charismatic millionaire investor originally from New York. William was in his late 30s and already known for his wide-ranging portfolio: tech startups, real estate, sustainable energy. He was regularly photographed in the society pages, standing beside celebrities like Sofia Vergara and high-profile entrepreneurs at events in Manhattan and Los Angeles. Though unattached officially, the rumor mill frequently speculated about his love life. In person, William radiated the sophistication of old money, but had the hunger for risk, typical of self-made moguls. They locked eyes across the bustling fundraiser. Anna was there reporting for the college news section, taking pictures of the prominent philanthropists in attendance. William, fresh from a business trip to Hong Kong, was leaning casually against a marble pillar, swirling a glass of champagne. Sparks flared when he walked up to her, introduced himself with a smooth confidence, and offered to help sponsor the literacy campaign. Anna was taken aback by how gracious he seemed. He asked about her goals, her volunteer work, and her writing aspirations. That night, she wrote an article featuring William's contribution to the fundraiser. Little did she know her short piece would spark a chain of emails between them. He reached out to thank her for the flattering coverage. She demurred, noting it was just the facts. William, intrigued by her humility and intelligence, invited her out for coffee. Anna accepted, partly out of curiosity, partly because his sophisticated presence was hard to ignore. Their coffee date at a trendy cafe off campus felt like the start of a fantasy. William asked about her background, her dreams, her family, and even her struggles. In turn, Anna learned about his early life. The Rutherfords had once been wealthy landowners, but after his father's series of poor investments, William had to rebuild the family's fortune practically from scratch. He was still deeply shaped by that fall from grace, driving him to fiercely safeguard his successes and carefully manage his public image. Soon, one coffee date turned into dinner dates, which turned into weekend trips. Anna felt she was living someone else's life, flying out to Miami on William's private jet, wearing designer dresses he'd insisted on gifting her, attending philanthropic gatherings in New York and London. Her parents were both proud and worried. They'd never seen Anna so happy yet, so far from home. Meanwhile, Anna found herself in the eye of a social hurricane. Paparazzi occasionally snapped pictures of her, and William gossip blogs wondered about the new mystery woman. Over time, though, she grew used to the media glare. After 2 breathtaking years together, William proposed on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. A string quartet played softly in the background, surrounded by discreet security to keep prying cameras away. Anna, shocked but overjoyed, said yes through tears of happiness. They were married 6 months later, in a grand ceremony at a historic estate in the Hamptons. The wedding photos made front-page news in society columns. The millionaire from New York weds the smart Texan journalist. Their first dance was to a live performance of At Last by Etta James's tribute singer. Their honeymoon in Bali was a swirl of rose petals, beach sunsets, and whispered promises of a bright future. For a time, life felt perfect. Anna had a husband who was wealthy, generous, and unbelievably romantic. She'd put her journalism career on temporary hold. At William's request, he insisted she take time to enjoy married life and offered to help her start her own investigative news website whenever she was ready. Love, lavish living, and laughter characterized their initial year of marriage. Yet beneath the glamour, a rift was forming. Anna noticed that William had a controlling streak. He began to question her interactions with male colleagues, criticized her for dressing down when she insisted on wearing comfortable clothes for errands, and discouraged her from pursuing anything that could cast negativity on his investments. She tried to brush these signs aside. After all, he was kind in many ways, and she still believed in his best intentions. Little did Anna know that the cracks in her dream marriage were only going to widen once she discovered she was pregnant, and that the child she carried would become the catalyst for heartbreak and revenge that no one could have predicted Anna had always wanted. A family growing up in a tight-knit household, she envisioned giving her own children the warmth and security she'd once had. Early one morning, after feeling a wave of constant nausea, she decided to pick up a pregnancy test from a pharmacy near their penthouse on 5th Avenue. She took the test in the lavish marble bathroom with trembling hands. 2 lines are positive. Her heart soared with joy, imagining telling William that they were about to be parents. Perhaps, she thought, a baby would bring them closer together. Lately, William's controlling behavior had escalated. He was checking her phone, questioning her every expense. She hoped the news of their child would soften his rough edges, remind him of what truly mattered, beyond wealth and reputation. That evening, she prepared a special dinner at their penthouse, her mother's recipe for chicken enchiladas, fresh guacamole, and a creamy flan for dessert. She was determined to create a warm setting to announce the joyous news. William arrived late, looking harried, a deep furrow in his brow. He barely acknowledged the table filled with her carefully prepared dishes. Anna tried to lighten the mood, guiding him to sit, pouring him a glass of wine, which he accepted absent-mindedly. Then, with a beaming smile, she told him, "William, I'm pregnant. We're having a baby." A long silence followed. William set down his wine and stared at her. Anna expected happiness, relief, anything but the coldness that settled over his features. When he finally spoke, his voice was tight. "Are you certain it's mine?" Anna felt like she'd been slapped. She stammered through confusion and hurt, reminding him that she'd been faithful. But William's eyes burned with suspicion. He muttered about the timing being far from ideal, about how the responsibilities of fatherhood could weigh heavily on his business dealings, about how he needed to be absolutely sure. Anna was stunned. This wasn't the man who had courted her so sweetly, who had claimed to love every part of her soul. In the days that followed, William's behavior grew increasingly distant and dismissive. He demanded a paternity test, subtly casting doubt on Anna's character. Heartbroken Anna agreed to the test, desperate to prove she was telling the truth and to salvage their relationship. The results, of course, showed William was the father, yet his relief was overshadowed by cool calculation rather than joy. Anna overheard hushed phone calls, snippets about prenuptial agreements, potential legal ramifications. Although they had signed a prenup, the baby introduced new elements that might complicate William's finances and public image. One evening he left for a business trip to Silicon Valley and never returned home. Days melted into weeks. Anna tried calling him, texting him, sending emails. His replies were curt and cold. She found out through a business news article that he had flown to London for a series of meetings with technology investors and had spent weekends hobnobbing with wealthy aristocrats in Monaco. All the while, Anna grew more anxious, battling morning sickness and heartbreak in their once cozy penthouse that now felt like a gilded cage. Harriet Sullivan, Anna's old mentor from the Austin Tribune, reached out to see how she was doing. Anna hesitated, but eventually confided that something was deeply wrong in her marriage. Harriet, protective as ever, urged her to not let William walk all over her. Harriet also reminded Anna that her investigative talents could be harnessed to uncover truths even within her personal life. More than once, Harriet said, "Don't forget you have the heart of a reporter. Use it if you need to." One day, Anna woke up and found a note on the dining room table, presumably delivered by one of William's staff in the early morning hours. The message was brief and devastating. William was ending their marriage. He demanded she move out of the penthouse. He wanted no further obligations toward her, except for a financial settlement that his lawyer would draft. Anna felt her entire body go numb, tears streaming down her cheeks as she read the letter. She was 4 months pregnant, exhausted, and tossed aside like an inconvenient piece of baggage. Broken but not beaten, Anna packed her belongings. She left the penthouse that same day, ignoring the sympathetic looks from the staff who had come to care for her. With nowhere else to go in New York, she booked a flight home to Austin. Her father Miguel picked her up from the airport, eyes brimming with concern when he saw his daughter pale and trembling. Though she tried to hold back tears the moment she collapsed into his arms, her anguish poured out. There in her childhood bedroom, Anna clutched her belly and resolved to protect her unborn child from William's cruelty. She also felt an ember of anger spark within her. For the first time, Anna found herself wondering if William had secrets, dark ones, and whether she had been chosen for his agenda rather than for love. In the weeks following her return to Austin, Anna wrestled with heartbreak, embarrassment, and fear about the future. She wanted to believe that William's abandonment was just a temporary lapse in judgment. But her calls and messages continued to go unanswered. His lawyer, a polished man named Maxwell Carmichael, reached out instead with a generous settlement offer and a confidentiality agreement. Anna was shocked by the coldness of it all. She was supposed to hush up her entire relationship, accept a payout, and vanish from William's life. Furious, she refused to sign immediately. Time slowed down in that painful limbo. Her belly grew rounder, a daily reminder of the life inside her, and the father who wanted nothing to do with them. Her parents, though supportive, were worried about finances. Patricia had just been through a health scare and was too weak to keep working. Double shifts, Miguel's mechanic shop needed urgent repairs and new equipment. Anna began to wonder if taking William's settlement might be the pragmatic move for the sake of her family and the baby. Yet a deeper instinct told her not to cave, that something about William's abrupt shift was more than just a selfish decision. There was something bigger beneath the surface. Determined to find answers, she contacted Harriet Sullivan again. Harriet visited Anna in Austin, taking her out for lunch at a cozy cafe, over steaming mugs of peppermint tea. Anna confided all the abrupt abandonment, the soulless note, the financial settlement, hush money. Harriet listened gravely, then offered a suggestion that would set Anna on the path of discovery. Investigate William's recent business dealings. Maybe his sudden decision to discard her had roots in hidden debts, shady partnerships, or an upcoming scandal that fatherhood would complicate. Energized by Harriet's idea, Anna began quietly digging. She scoured financial news articles, looking for clues about William Rutherford's ventures: Rutherford Real Estate Group, Rutherford Tech, Investments, Rutherford, Sustainable Energy. His empire seemed unstoppable. But then she stumbled on a line in a niche finance blog referencing Rutherford's questionable offshore accounts. A few more days of searching led her to a bigger puzzle. There were rumors that William had allegedly manipulated stock prices for one of his tech startups, WeConnect, by feeding false projections to investors. Officially, everything looked squeaky clean, but whispers in the finance community suggested otherwise. Anna also discovered an SEC inquiry had been launched quietly. No mainstream media source had covered it yet. A potential scandal of that magnitude could topple a man like William Rutherford. His image as a philanthropic sweetheart would be replaced by the label of a fraudster. Anna's journalistic instincts flared to life. Could William's decision to cut ties with her be part of a strategy to protect his empire? Perhaps he believed a pregnant wife, someone who might discover and reveal his secrets, was a liability. Or maybe he feared that if the scandal broke, she'd become an unwilling accomplice. Still, Anna needed more concrete evidence. She set up phone calls with ex-employees of Rutherford's companies, speaking under the guise of a journalist doing a feature. She reached out to old acquaintances in New York's philanthropic circles. She even ventured into the dark corners of online finance forums. Piece by piece, a disturbing picture emerged. William was rumored to be funneling investor money into personal projects, using shell companies registered in Caribbean havens to mask suspicious transactions. Though Anna lacked the smoking gun, the circumstantial evidence pointed to major financial misdeeds. And it was all hush-hush, probably because people feared William's litigious nature. Meanwhile, Anna had to face her personal challenges: doctor's appointments, the emotional toll of impending single motherhood, and the swirling confusion of heartbreak. Sleep grew elusive. She'd toss and turn in her childhood bed, glancing at her phone, hoping for a message from William that never came. Instead, Maxwell Carmichael's legal team kept sending her urgent requests to sign the settlement. They threatened that her refusal to comply would end in a drawn-out legal battle and zero support for the baby. Anna resolved that before she made any decision, she needed that smoking gun. She had to know the truth about William's underhanded dealings. If he was indeed committing financial crimes, she'd use that as leverage to ensure her child's future and reveal his true nature. If she discovered nothing, she'd sign the settlement, walk away, and pray for peace. The next day, she booked a flight to New York, telling her concerned parents that she needed just a few days to settle her business. Harriet agreed to meet her there. Donning a brave face and a trench coat that used to fit her better before pregnancy, Anna stepped back into the city that had once felt so glamorous, determined to uncover the truth about the man she had married. Anna checked into a modest hotel on the Lower East Side, far from the five-star accommodations she used to frequent with William. She used Harriet's press credentials to set up interviews under the pretext of writing a piece on philanthropy and tech entrepreneurs. Under that cover story, Anna managed to speak with lower-level employees in William's venture capital offices. Most were tight-lipped. William paid well, and loyalty ran deep. But a few discreetly hinted at suspicious transactions, though they were too scared to go on record. Desperate for more, Anna rummaged through corporate filings at the local business registries. Harriet helped cross-reference addresses and scanned through old newspaper archives for anything linking Rutherford's companies to known shell entities or past controversies. It was an uphill battle. William's legal team was adept at burying digital footprints, but Harriet had taught Anna the importance of patience in investigative work. If you keep searching, eventually a thread will appear. Their breakthrough came from an unlikely source, an accountant named Linda Farnsworth, who had once worked at Rutherford Tech Investments. Anna discovered Linda's name buried in a public lawsuit docket. She had sued Rutherford Tech for wrongful termination and settled out of court. After some coaxing, Linda agreed to meet Anna in a quiet bookstore cafe away from prying eyes. When Anna showed up, Linda looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder as if she expected to be followed. "It's not safe for me to talk about this," Linda whispered, her fingers trembling around a cup of chamomile tea. "I signed an NDA. I could lose everything if I reveal details." Anna leaned in, speaking softly, but with urgency. "I'm William's wife," she said, voice breaking. "He left me. I'm pregnant with his child, and I suspect he's involved in something illegal. I don't know what to do. Please, Linda. Anything you can tell me might help me protect my baby, protect myself." Seeing Anna's distress, Linda's expression softened. She began carefully explaining how, during her time at Rutherford Tech, she noticed large sums of money being transferred between several accounts that didn't match any official projects. She tried flagging it to her superiors, but they fired her under dubious circumstances. The settlement was quick and generous, provided she remained silent about her discoveries. Linda couldn't share documents; those were locked away. But the names of the suspicious accounts were forever etched in her memory. She scribbled a few cryptic references on a napkin: HT Holding, Nova Horizons, East Lake Consulting. Then she added, "They're all linked, different addresses, but all roads lead to a private trust in the Cayman Islands." An electric surge ran through Anna's veins. She now had a lead. If she could tie these shell companies directly to William and track the money trail, it could confirm his involvement in fraud or embezzlement. She thanked Linda profusely, promising to keep her name out of it. The accountant left quickly, her eyes filled with a mix of guilt and relief. Armed with these leads, Anna and Harriet dove back into research mode. They discovered that HT Holding had a small office address listed in Brooklyn, likely a front. Anna decided to check it out in person, though Harriet warned her to be cautious. One cold, drizzling morning, Anna took a taxi to the address, her heart pounding. The building was a run-down warehouse with no visible signage. She tried the door. It was locked. Peering through the dirty windows, she saw only dusty boxes and a reception desk stacked with unopened mail. Suddenly, a heavy-set man in a dark suit stepped out from behind the warehouse. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice gruff. Anna froze. She recognized him. He was one of William's security guards, often seen at social events. Her blood ran cold, murmuring an apology about being lost. She hurried away as quickly as she could, ignoring the guard's suspicious gaze. That moment cemented her fears William had layers of protection around his shady dealings, and if she dug too deep, she might be putting herself in danger. Returning to the hotel, she found Harriet waiting anxiously. Harriet's own research had yielded more references to shell entities linked to Rutherford's circle, though none directly named William. Still, it was enough for Anna to suspect that William was funneling money illegally. Harriet suggested they approach a major newspaper or an online investigative platform with what they had. But Anna wasn't ready. She needed a direct link, something that would unequivocally tie William to these accounts. Without that, it could be brushed off as rumors or personal vendettas. That night, Harriet left to meet a colleague, and Anna was alone in her hotel room. Half asleep, she heard her phone vibrate. The call was from an unknown number. A raspy voice hissed, "Stop poking your nose where it doesn't belong. Sign the settlement and walk away. You don't want to bring trouble on yourself or your baby." Before Anna could respond, the line went dead, shaken to her core. Anna realized the fight she was in was far more dangerous than she anticipated, but instead of scaring her off, it fueled her determination. She refused to be intimidated by shadowy threats. Memories of her father's advice floated back to her. Right is right, even if it's hard. You can't let fear control you. Besides, after everything William had done, Bonner wouldn't let him get away with hurting her, abandoning his child, and possibly defrauding countless investors. Her unborn baby deserved justice, and she intended to secure it. The following day, Harriet arranged for Anna to meet a trusted investigative journalist, Mark Underwood, who worked for a reputable national paper. Mark had reported on corporate fraud cases before including high-profile exposés that led to resignations and lawsuits over coffee. Anna laid out her findings and expressed her fear that she didn't yet have the definitive proof to implicate William Rutherford. She needed Mark's network resources and expertise to solidify the story. Mark was intrigued. He agreed that the thread linking William to the shell accounts was the story's linchpin. "We need actual transaction data or testimonies from insiders who can confirm Rutherford's direct involvement," he said, scanning through Anna's notes. "Otherwise, it's circumstantial." While Harriet believed Mark could be trusted, Anna felt torn. If they went public too soon, William's legal team would discredit her as a spiteful ex-wife. She also risked him shutting down any remaining leads. Mark, sensing her internal conflict, reassured her they'd keep everything confidential until they had a rock-solid case. "But we've got to move quickly," he warned. "Money flows in and out of these shells fast. If Rutherford knows we're close, he'll bury them over the next few days." Anna collaborated with Mark's newspaper's research team, cross-referencing data from corporate registries and banking disclosures. She noticed that Harriet was uncharacteristically silent sometimes, leaving for hours without explanation. Anna guessed Harriet might have her own methods for unearthing information. She also found herself wishing she could confide everything to her family, but she didn't want to burden her mother and father with fear for her safety. At 5 months pregnant, her body was going through changes that left her exhausted, but she pushed through, driven by a fierce love for her unborn child. While scanning an SEC filing late one evening at the newspaper's office, Anna felt a sudden sharp pain in her abdomen. Alarmed, she tried to breathe steadily, telling herself it was just stress. She ended up in the break room, hands shaking. Mark found her pale and sweating, insisting on driving her to the nearest hospital. After an anxious examination, the doctor assured her the baby was fine, but warned her about overexertion. "You must reduce stress," he stressed. "Your child's health depends on it." That night, lying in a hospital bed, Anna realized she was treading a dangerous line. Should she sign the settlement, vanish from William's world, and give her baby a secure, if silent, future? Or should she keep pushing for the truth and risk everything? Images of William's betrayal collided with thoughts of the baby's uncertain future if Anna didn't secure child support. Then she remembered her father's words and Harriet's unwavering support. "You have the heart of a reporter." Harriet had said Anna couldn't live with herself if she walked away from the biggest story of her life, a story that was also deeply personal. She checked out of the hospital the next morning, resolving to push forward, but promising herself she'd be mindful of her health. Upon returning to the newspaper's office, Mark greeted her with an urgent expression. "We got something," he said quietly. A confidential source had provided partial access to some offshore transaction records. Among them was a reference to a W. Rutherford initiating a transfer to Nova Horizons, one of the shell companies Linda had mentioned. This was the first direct naming of William in the context of an overseas funnel. Mark believed they could use it to pressure more sources to come forward. Excitement and dread warred inside Anna. They finally had a tangible link, but it was still incomplete, just a single transaction. Nonetheless, they decided to approach a forensic accountant to verify its authenticity. If it checked out, they would be one step closer to undeniable evidence. The forensic accountant confirmed that the transaction was real, but cautioned that William's legal team would attempt to discredit the leak or claim that the W. Rutherford on record was someone else. They needed a pattern of transactions, an unequivocal paper trail. Just as Anna was preparing for another day of digital sleuthing, she received a call from Harriet, who sounded breathless. "Meet me at the place you first started digging, the coffee shop on 42nd Street." Harriet said, confused but trusting her mentor. Anna hailed a cab. When she arrived, Harriet handed her a small manila envelope, eyes glittering with excitement. "I told you, I had a few tricks up my sleeve," Harriet said. Inside the envelope were copies of bank statements linking multiple transactions from William Rutherford's personal trust to Nova Horizons Eastlake Consulting and several other shell entities. There were timestamps, official bank stamps, enough to create a damning mosaic of fraudulent activity. Anna gaped at Harriet. How Harriet just gave a knowing smile. "I'm an old reporter with old connections. Let's just say, not everyone in Rutherford's circle is loyal to him anymore. Word travels fast when someone abandons a pregnant wife." Tears pricked Anna's eyes. She hugged Harriet, whispering her thanks. With these documents, they had everything needed to reveal William's crimes. Anna sat at the edge of the bed in Harriet's apartment, the morning light filtering through gauzy curtains. Her heart raced, though she tried to still it, with deep, steady breaths. On the table before her lay the manila envelope, simple, unassuming, yet filled with the power to tear down an empire. Inside were irrefutable documents, bank statements, time-stamped transactions, the names of shell companies, all linked directly to William Rutherford. It was everything. Proof not only of his betrayal as a husband, but of his crimes as a public figure. Harriet's eyes sparkled with quiet pride as she poured Anna a cup of mint tea. "You ready?" she asked gently, placing the warm mug beside her. Anna's hand trembled slightly as she reached for it. The tea was meant to soothe, but nothing could dull the storm brewing inside her. "I don't know if I'm ready," Anna admitted, "but I know I have to do this." Mark Underwood, the seasoned journalist from the national paper, met them downstairs. His usual stoic expression had softened. He understood what this moment meant. They hailed a cab and rode in tense silence to the Midtown office of William's attorney, Maxwell Carmichael. The law firm was sleek, modern, sterile marble floors, glass walls, receptionists with emotionless smiles. As Anna stepped off the elevator, her baby shifted inside her, a small nudge against her ribs, as if reminding her, "I'm with you." Carmichael greeted them with that same smug, polished facade Anna remembered from earlier settlement talks. He gestured toward a conference room. "I assume this is about the settlement," he said smoothly, eyeing her belly as if it were an inconvenience Anna didn't answer. Instead, she opened the envelope and slid the documents across the table. For a moment, no one spoke. Carmichael's confident posture faltered as his eyes scanned the contents. The color drained from his face. His fingers twitched at the corner of the page, as if he wanted to tear the papers apart, but knew better. "Where did you get these?" he asked, voice low and sharp. Anna met his gaze, unwavering. "That's not your concern. What matters is that the truth is here, in black and white." Harriet leaned in her voice, calm but firm. "These documents have been independently verified by forensic accountants. Every stamp, every signature, every transfer is legitimate." Mark added, "Our legal team is prepared to move forward with publication, but in the spirit of journalistic ethics, we're offering William the chance to respond before the story goes live." For the first time, the smooth-talking attorney looked rattled. He leaned back in his chair, jaw clenched. "You realize the damage this will cause, not just to William, but to you as well. Public backlash, legal warfare. Is that really what you want?" Anna swallowed hard. Her chest ached not from fear, but from years of suppressed truth, of love given and abused. "What I want," she said slowly, "is for my child to grow up knowing that his mother didn't cower, that I stood up for what was right." Carmichael's tone changed. "Let's be civil. We can make this go away. How much do you want to keep this quiet?" The words hung in the air like poison. Anna blinked. For a moment, she was back in that penthouse kitchen, setting down a homemade meal, announcing her pregnancy, with hope in her voice. Only now did she fully see the rot that had existed behind the marble countertops and designer suits. "You're offering me a bribe," she said coldly, "to bury the truth, to protect a man who left his pregnant wife and stole from thousands of investors." Carmichael began to protest, but Mark pressed a button on a small recorder in his pocket. The red light blinked. "I wouldn't deny anything you've said so far," he said, with a razor's edge in his tone. Harriet leaned forward. "You know what's coming, and you know your client can't escape it." Silence fell again. Carmichael's confidence had withered. He stood stiffly, straightened his tie. "You'll destroy William's entire legacy with this. He'll retaliate." "Don't think he won't." Anna stood too. Her belly led the way, round and full of promise. "He destroyed himself," she said. "This is just the world seeing him for who he really is." With that, they walked out. The doors to the firm clicked shut behind them, like the closing of a chapter. Outside, the city roared as usual. Horns, footsteps, the hum of people going about their lives. But for Anna, the world had gone silent for a moment. A great weight had lifted. The wind swept through the streets, and Anna inhaled deeply. Harriet placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You did it. She didn't feel victorious yet. That would come later. But in that instant, Anna felt something she hadn't in months, 3 days. That's how long it took for Anna's world to change again. On the morning of the 3rd day, Anna stood by the window in Harriet's apartment, holding a warm cup of chamomile tea, her fingers wrapped tightly around the ceramic, like it was the only thing grounding her. Outside New York pulsed with life. Unaware that it was about to be shaken by a story too big to ignore, the article went live at exactly 8:07 a.m. Charitable financier or fraudster allegations mount against millionaire investor William Rutherford. The headline was bold-centered. Impossible to look away from Mark Underwood's byline appeared just beneath it, alongside a small note with contributions from Harriet Sullivan and an anonymous source close to Rutherford. Anna's heart thudded as she scrolled. There it was, the full expose. Every detail, every transaction, every shell company, each account tied back to William. The documents Harriet had secured were featured as exhibits. But what drew Anna's eyes most were the words Mark had chosen to describe her. A woman betrayed, but not broken. A mother who refused to be silenced. A journalist who became the story she was born to write. By noon, the story had gone viral. National outlets reposted it. International ones translated it. Financial blogs tore through the implications. Pundits on cable news panels debated whether William Rutherford was merely ethically murky or a full-blown criminal, and social media. It exploded. Anna's face, captured in old paparazzi shots from galas and gala nights, smiling beside William in designer gowns, was now plastered across feeds with hashtags like pregnant whistleblower, Rutherford scandal, and disturbingly, gold digger or heroine. I can't believe how fast this is moving, Anna whispered, setting down her phone, hands trembling. Harriet turned from the kitchen, a pot of soup bubbling behind her. You lit the match, sweetheart. Now watch the fire burn. But the fire didn't burn evenly. William's response was swift and brutal. By evening, his PR machine had kicked into full gear. Polished statements were released, denying everything. The documents were fabricated. The accusations, vindictive and orchestrated. And Anna. According to them, she was a scorned, unstable woman, attempting to extort a respectable businessman. They went further. They leaked private details of Anna's past. Her college essays, her social media posts from years ago, even misrepresented her academic work to imply she had radical views. The same woman who once posed beside William at galas was now being painted as a manipulative social climber. The smear campaign hit hard. Trolls flooded Anna's inbox. Comments appeared under every post about the article. Some sympathetic, others venomous. You trapped him with that baby. She was always after his money. Typical journalist lies for fame. Anna tried to block it out. She kept reminding herself. This was about the truth, about justice, about Matteo. But when her father called from Austin, his voice shaking, she nearly broke Anna. There's reporters outside the shop. They're asking questions, shoving cameras in my face. Your mother's not doing well. Her blood pressure's high. I'm so sorry, Dad. She choked out. Miguel's voice softened. You did the right thing, mija. But it's going to be a rough storm. You hold on, you hear me? You hold on for that baby. The next day, things escalated again. William filed a defamation lawsuit, not just against the newspaper or Mark, but against Harriet and even Anna herself. He also requested a restraining order, accusing Anna of harassment. The irony nearly made her laugh, if it didn't hurt so much. At that point, Anna moved in full-time with Harriet for safety. Paparazzi lingered outside. Strangers took photos of her baby bump like it was tabloid gold. She tried to keep calm, to stay grounded. She began talking to her baby, more as if the tiny heartbeat within her could keep her own steady. "You're not just my reason to keep going," she whispered one night as she lay awake. "You're my proof that love still means something." And then, amid the chaos, came a call. A woman's voice, crisp and clear. "Anna Mendoza. My name is Dr. Cynthia Rollins. Harriet gave me your information. I'm an OB-GYN, and I'd like to offer you prenatal care, free of charge." Anna blinked, tears already gathering. Why, she asked, voice cracking. "Because what you're doing takes more strength than most people ever have, and I think you and your baby deserve someone in your corner." That night, Anna wept, not from fear or anger, but from gratitude. Weeks passed, and with every day, William's foundation crumbled more. Investors began pulling out. His board members resigned. And then came the moment Anna didn't expect. So soon, a federal investigation was announced. The charges were real. The government was watching. Still, it wasn't over. One night, unable to sleep, Anna scrolled social media. Despite Harriet's warning, a private message popped up. A user with no profile picture, no real name. "I used to work for Rutherford. I have more proof." Emails direct from him. He knew what he was doing. Anna's fingers hovered over the keyboard. A trap. "A lifeline with caution," she replied. Hours later, Mark had the emails, messages from William himself, discussing SEC regulations, skirting legal boundaries, laughing off accountability. That was the final crack. William's attorney, Maxwell Carmichael, was rumored to have stepped down. The man who once sneered across polished conference tables now disappeared from the spotlight altogether. But Anna, she stood firm. She was no longer the dumped wife. She was the woman who exposed a lie too big to ignore, who stood tall through the firestorm, who carried not just a child, but the truth. And through it all, Matteo kicked in her belly like he knew his mother had won the first of many battles for them both. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and cold resolve. Anna sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, 8 months pregnant, and wrapped in a navy blue maternity dress that hugged her belly like armor. Her hands rested protectively atop the swell of her child fingers, intertwined in a gentle prayer for strength. Around her, the air was heavy with anticipation. Journalists scribbling in notepads, murmurs from the public gallery, the low hum of microphones being tested. Across the room sat William Rutherford. Gone was the charismatic mogul, in tailored suits and confident smirks. His skin looked drawn, his eyes sunken. He wore a dark suit that seemed to hang loose on him, as if he were shrinking under the weight of the allegations. When their eyes met just for a heartbeat, Anna saw not the man who once whispered vows beneath chandeliers, but a stranger consumed by self-preservation. The trial had officially begun. A grand jury had indicted William on multiple counts: wire fraud, securities, violations, money laundering. The culmination of months of investigation, whistleblower accounts, forensic documentation, and Anna's courage. She had been subpoenaed to testify. As she made her way to the witness stand, each step felt like a mile. The courtroom fell silent, all eyes on the woman who had become a symbol of betrayal, of resilience, of justice. The bailiff held out a Bible. Anna placed her hand atop it, swore the oath, and sat. Her voice, though soft, carried weight. She told the truth, not just the facts, but the emotional toll. How William had walked out without warning. How she had been left to navigate pregnancy alone. How suspicion turned into discovery. And how she unearthed secrets meant to stay buried. Her hands trembled at times. Her throat caught, but she never faltered. "I didn't set out to ruin anyone," she said, glancing toward the jury. "I just wanted to understand why someone I loved turned so cold. I didn't expect to find crime. But once I did, I couldn't look away." William sat motionless, eyes burning holes through the floor. Then came the cross-examination. His defense attorney, sharp and theatrical, attempted to flip the narrative. He painted Anna as vengeful, manipulative, driven by jealousy. He questioned her motives, her character, even her credibility as a journalist. "Isn't it true," he sneered, "that you were desperate for attention, that your investigation was really just an elaborate act of revenge?" Anna looked at the attorney, then to the jury. "No," she said simply. "What I was desperate for was the truth. For my child, for the people William hurt." Her composure silenced the room. Linda Farnsworth, the former accountant, who had first shared the names of the shell companies, also took the stand. Her voice quivered, but her testimony was devastating. She confirmed the suspicious money transfers, the internal warnings, ignored the fear of retaliation. Other former employees testified anonymously, describing a culture of secrecy and intimidation. The prosecution laid out its case with methodical precision: bank records, email chains, witness statements. Piece by piece, the image of William Rutherford as a titan of industry crumbled. The jury could see what Anna had seen long ago. A man so obsessed with power, he'd risk everything, including a family, to preserve it. During breaks, Anna stepped outside to breathe. Journalists hounded her for quotes, but she said little. Her thoughts were focused inward on the life growing inside her. At night, she curled up in Harriet's guest room, Matteo kicking gently as if to remind her, "We're almost through." Then came the verdict. The jury deliberated for just under 4 hours. Anna sat holding Harriet's hand, her heart pounding so loudly she almost didn't hear the foreperson speak. Guilty. On multiple counts. William didn't speak, didn't flinch, but Anna saw his jaw twitch, his nostrils flare. He looked less like a man facing justice and more like a cornered animal, realizing the trap had finally sprung shut. Tears welled in Anna's eyes, not out of joy or triumph, but something deeper. A quiet grief. This wasn't just the end of a trial, it was the death of an illusion. The man she once thought she loved no longer existed. Maybe he never had. Outside the courthouse, reporters flooded forward. Flashbulbs, microphones, questions shouted from every direction. Anna stepped up to the podium. Her voice again was soft but firm. "I didn't choose this path, but I chose not to stay silent. This case was never just about me. It was about truth, accountability, and what happens when powerful people think they're untouchable. I'm grateful the justice system worked, and now I'm going home to prepare for the most important role of my life, being a mother." She turned her chin high as Harriet and Mark flanked her protectively. Later that evening, Anna watched the news in silence. Pregnant wife topples tycoon. The headlines read, her face now, familiar to millions, flickered across the screen. But the woman looking back wasn't the same girl who once swooned in a private jet, dressed in borrowed diamonds. No, this woman was steel and warmth, fire and grace, the The media attention was overwhelming, but Anna managed it on her own terms. She granted 2 interviews, one with a women's magazine, one with a major network, and in both she spoke not of revenge, but of responsibility. "I just want my son to grow up in a world where truth still matters," she said. And though critics still lingered in comment sections, their voices were now drowned by the flood of support letters, emails, care packages from strangers who saw her not as a scandal, but as a symbol of hope. With the child support and damages enforced by the court, Anna set up a modest trust fund for Matteo. She used a portion to begin something small but powerful, a non-profit newsroom dedicated to mentoring young women in investigative journalism, especially those from underrepresented communities. She named it the Sullivan Project, after the woman who had reminded her of her worth when she'd almost forgotten it. And through it all, each meeting, each call, each quiet night, feeding hope to the future, Anna stayed grounded by one undeniable truth. She had spoken, she had fought, she had won, and soon she would hold her son, knowing she had given him not just life, but legacy. In the last month of her pregnancy, Anna returned to Austin to be surrounded by family. Under Dr. Rollins's care, she gave birth to a baby boy she named Matteo Miguel Rutherford, keeping William's surname only so that the child would one day know his paternal identity. For better or worse, Matteo was born healthy, with a full head of dark hair that reminded Anna of her own baby pictures. Holding Matteo in her arms for the first time, Anna felt a surge of unconditional love, all the pain, the betrayal, the fear. It seemed distant in that moment. She vowed to devote herself to raising him with integrity, teaching him the values her parents had instilled in her. Her father, Miguel, wept tears of joy upon seeing his grandson, Patricia. Though frail, smiled brightly whenever she held the baby, whispering blessings in Spanish. 2 weeks later, while Anna was still recovering, Harriet stopped by with an envelope in hand. Inside was a short letter from William Rutherford, written from the Federal Detention Center. It was a strange mix of regret and bitterness. He denied some of the accusations, insisted he had truly loved Anna in his own way, and asked for a chance to see his son someday. Anna reread the letter multiple times, her emotions swirling anger, pity, sorrow. She penned a measured response, telling him that if he was sincere, he could start by admitting responsibility and taking steps toward restitution. She didn't promise visitation rights or forgiveness, only expressing that Matteo would learn the truth no matter what. Whether William chose to be a part of it in a positive way would be up to him. She mailed it and resolved not to dwell on it any further. In the months that followed, Anna began freelancing for major news outlets, focusing on corporate accountability stories. She found renewed purpose in her journalism, becoming an advocate for whistleblowers and pregnant women facing discrimination. Mark Underwood continued to publish hard-hitting exposés, sometimes consulting Anna for her insights. Harriet Sullivan returned to semi-retirement, but remained a guiding force in Anna's life, a maternal figure in the professional world. Word spread about Anna's work ethic and fearless reporting. Invitations to speak at conferences trickled in. She accepted only a few, wanting to balance her professional endeavors with the demands of motherhood. She was no longer the timid, starry-eyed girl who fell in love with a charming millionaire. She had become a woman who understood the power of truth, the necessity of courage, and the unbreakable bond of motherhood. And so life moved on. William Rutherford's downfall became a cautionary tale, a fleeting reference in the annals of corporate crime. Meanwhile, Anna's story wasn't just the pregnant wife who got dumped. It was about a woman who refused to stay silent in the face of betrayal, who discovered the strength within herself to stand up against corruption, and who ultimately emerged with something more valuable than all the millions in the world: a child she loved beyond measure, and a soul tempered by fire but unbroken. And that, dear viewers, is the remarkable, harrowing, and ultimately triumphant story of Anna Mendoza, the pregnant wife who was discarded by a millionaire but refused to be silenced. From her humble beginnings in Austin to standing up in a courtroom packed with cameras, she showed that love betrayed can transform into an unshakable resolve for justice. While William Rutherford's empire crumbled under the weight of his own deceit, Anna found her true purpose: mother to her precious son, and fierce advocate for truth. If this story moved you, please show your support by hitting the like button, sharing the video with friends who love real-life drama and redemption stories, and subscribing to our channel for more powerful narratives. Your engagement helps us reach more people who might find inspiration in Anna's bravery. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next deep dive drama.